There will be no need of us. The member for game may want to put in his specific knowledge, but please, not now. Let me give directions. The issues raised by the Honorable Duale are indeed of great moment, and they really go to the core of some of the key issues that we keep addressing. We talk about the Big Four, and the component of manufacturing is there. We will not achieve it as long as some of the issues that Honorable Duale is raising are not addressed. And therefore, I know, Honorable Gekaria, you as a departmental committee, but now you will have to convert yourself to do an inquiry with all the powers to summon, call before you, and if they fail to, report here, and we will show you how we will drag them into the place. All the people involved, whoever it is, starting from the cabinet secretary in the ministry, his peers, and whomever it is that you as a committee choose to invite, those members from the Kenya Power. The story about the response about the Honorable Duale going to court we will not allow it, not under my watch. The Member of Parliament is entitled to an answer, a satisfactory answer. Also invite the registrar of companies. These days there is even the issue of beneficial ownership. Let them come with all the CR12s of all of them. And if they don't bring, then you know that they are phony. You know, they must bring all the CR12, the registrar must bring before you. In fact, that process is ongoing. And the other day, Kenyans were being praised for having compliant in great numbers with the requirement for beneficial ownership. So get the CR12 so that then the answers which you'll bring now as a report, Honorable Gekaria, not now the statement from the ministry. So you will now be the ones now to bring the report, and on the day you're inviting them, invite the Honorable Duale. So and other interested members, like the member for NDBS, and maybe the member for game, is it? And the member for Kwanza, I can see his hand up. And then the other member anyway, who desires to go and hear. Because this matter affects everybody in the country. It's an important matter that the committee should really inquire into. Now it's not a matter of being given written statements perfunctorily. No. You now inquire into that, go into whatever length and depth to find out the issues that the Honorable Duale has raised, which now at least you have got a starting point. You get the answer, the issues that the Honorable Duale has raised, and also let in every contract with the IPPs indicate when it was first entered into. Was it for eternity? Because you know there's a language being used now in the judiciary about eternal clauses. Are these agreement contracts for eternity also? So that you know we may know. Do they have an expiry date? Even if Kenyans have so much sun, surely it's so much sun today, and there's a lot of power, cheaper power. Why do we continue having such expensive arrangements, contractual arrangements? Because I mean, there must be some point at which some of them may have to exit the scene. So, Honorable Gekaria, your committee, take some little bit of time and call everybody who is in the whole chain, from KenGen, from Kenya Power, from the ministry, from the registrar of companies, and any other body that you may think that has any information to profile, so that you table a report here which the entire House can debate, either resolve in one way or the other. So in your report, you should also seek to make recommendations as to what the House, the route, the direction the House should take. So I don't think we don't need to debate it further. I think that should be sufficient, unless you think there's another issue.
Honourable Speaker, I want to thank you for your direction. I will engage the Secretariat and hopefully immediately we'll be able to start an inquiry into this thing. And as a committee, I've also been concerned, so much concerned. But also, Honourable Dwale, through the intervention of the President after appointing the task force, it might unearth, and he gave them, I think, 6 months to be able to have come up with, but that does not stop us from being able to continue with what you have
That's
given.
executive driven.
Okay.
That one will not be brought here.
Okay, okay.
We want, what you find out, you bring it here.
I will. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Thank
you. Very well. Now, on this segment, there's a general statement by the leader of the minority party, the Honorable John Bandi.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I stand here indeed with a very heavy heart to convey my condolences to the family, relatives, friends, and of course, the great people of Game constituency, and to pay tribute to a fallen hero who was also a very good friend of mine, a comrade, a political mentor, and a reliable stalwart and member of my party, the Orange Democratic Movement, the late Honorable Washington JAKOYO MIDIWO. Mr. Speaker, even adding the article, the late, and following it with the late, it's very difficult for me to pronounce those words before the name Washington JAKOYO MIDIWO. Mr. Speaker, I got to learn yesterday that Honorable MIDIWO succumbed to heart attack, of course at the age of 54 years. The Honorable JAKOYO, Mr. Speaker, was elected a member of Parliament for the first time in 2002 to represent the people of Game constituency in the National Assembly. And, Mr. Speaker, he served in this House continuously for 3 consecutive terms up to 2017. Honorable members who worked with the Honorable JAKOYO MIDIWO would remember him and would agree with me that he could be described with the following words: that he was an astute debater, JAKOYO was courageous and charismatic leader, and I must add that he was a witty politician. He was forthright, very brave, and straightforward. I think if I use those words liberally to describe my fallen friend, I wouldn't be off the mark, Mr. Speaker. He was actually a dedicated and selfless leader who served his people with dedication. The Honorable JAKOYO, Mr. Speaker, allow me first to move to a bit of his history, a summary of his history. Was born in 1966, and he officially joined politics in 2002 when he vied and won the Game parliamentary seat on a NAC ticket. He went on to be re-elected to represent the same people of Game for another 2 terms in 2007 and 2013 under the Orange Democratic Movement. During his time in this House, Mr. Speaker, we'll all remember that MIDIWO served in various House committees, but more particularly I want to single out the Departmental Committee on Finance and Trade. He also served in the Joint Committee on Parliamentary Broadcasting and Library. He also served in the House Business Committee by virtue of his position in the leadership of the House. He also served in the Departmental Committee on Defense and Foreign Relations, among others. Mr. Speaker, JAKOYO, I'm being reminded also the catering, which we call Member Services Committee today. Mr. Speaker, the Honorable JAKOYO MIDIWO served as the ODM Chief Whip in this House from 2008, January 15th, to 2013. Later on, after being re-elected again for the third time under the new constitution, he served as the first deputy minority leader of the National Assembly of the Republic of Kenya. And we all will remember JAKOYO's contribution. He was sitting around here. JAKOYO was consistently sitting on this row. But yesterday, Mr. Speaker, I think the sun did set and the clouds gathered, and then we got the sad news of his demise, which was sudden. I will tell you it was truly sudden, because on Friday, I had a conversation with the late Washington JAKOYO MIDIWO, and we agreed with him that we would meet on Sunday evening to discuss issues ODM. Mr. Speaker, on Saturday, I tried reaching JAKOYO. His phone was going through, but he didn't pick my calls. That was very unusual of JAKOYO MIDIWO. Those who have been communicating with him knows that his phone is always on. There's no single time I've ever tried to reach out to JAKOYO MIDIWO and his phone is either off or it doesn't pick. If it doesn't pick, he calls you back almost immediately. But it was unusual this time. However, I didn't read much into it, and I didn't expect the sad news of yesterday. But, Mr. Speaker, we must accept that we are in a journey. All of us are heading where our departed friend has now crossed over to. Allow me, Mr. Speaker, just to take a few minutes, because I know many of my colleagues will also want to have opportunity to condole and share in their grief of the death of our colleague. Let me just say a few things. I called Honorable JAKOYO MIDIWO my political mentor, and I must confess that I've had two political mentors, and both of them are now the late. That is the late Gerald Lutino Kajuang, who started mentoring me into politics before I even came to Parliament. And then JAKOYO MIDIWO, who immediately I came in here, gave me opportunity and immediately spotted some potential and put me very close to introduce me to parliamentary procedures and allowed me space to grow. Mr. Speaker, JAKOYO was someone who, I must say, had no jealousy. He was not jealous. He would want you to grow as much as he grew politically. But also very, very open and candid and honest. There was a time, Mr. Speaker, after the death of the late Joshua Ojode in a grisly accident, that his replacement was being discussed in the political corridor. And I remember meeting JAKOYO on the stairs, and he called me aside and told me, "Mbadi, it is being said that you are to be appointed assistant minister, but I don't want it." He told me on my face, and I asked him why. He told me, if Ababu Namwamba is crossing over to government side now, government, becoming a member of the cabinet, how can I again lose you? Who is remaining in the backbench? And I told him that you are not then thinking about my personal development. You are thinking about the party, but you are not thinking about my personal development. And immediately took about 1 minute just thinking about my statement and told me, "I think I agree with you." So that is JAKOYO. Other people would go behind your back and start discussing how you should not be appointed. But he first reached out to me and told me, "I don't think you should be appointed assistant minister." Now, Mr. Speaker, we have lost such kind of a person. I want to just say my last final remarks. I want to quickly conclude that, Mr. Speaker, this is someone who really could trust you once he knows that you have some capacity and competence. I remember one time there was a report that came to this House through the Agriculture Committee that was chaired then by John Mututho. And that report was really personalized attacks on the office of the Prime Minister. We sat with JAKOYO in the Prime Minister's office with the technical team, and we agreed that we bring amendments, the two of us. And he told me, Mbadi, go home, read, I'm also going to read. Tomorrow we converge and propose the amendment. Mr. Speaker, I read all the way to 3 a.m. coming out with these amendments. When I met JAKOYO the following morning, he told me, just laughed and told me, Mbadi, I knew you were going to read, and so just go ahead and propose those amendments. Mr. Speaker, when I came to the floor of the House, after my contribution, all the members of Parliament, including the cabinet ministers, agreed with me. And I think that is the first clear mark that I made on the floor of this House. That is how JAKOYO could trust you. I could go on and on. This is one person. Among my friends, there is no member of Parliament who has visited Suba South constituency like JAKOYO MIDIWO and did so many fundraisings for me as a chief guest. It is only his constituency and Rarieda constituency, where my wife comes from, where I have visited outside Homa Bay County more than any other constituency in the Republic of Kenya. So, Mr. Speaker, I don't want to take all the time for my colleagues. It is indeed really a sad moment for all of us, all the members of Parliament here, especially those who served in the last Parliament and the other previous Parliament, will agree that we have lost someone who, even if he was not with you on the same side of the political divide, you could still interact, socialize, and a very, very genuine human being. I want to stop there because I profess the faith of Seventh-day Adventists. I will not say, may God rest his soul in eternal peace, because we believe that is a judgment that's left to God. But he served this country, he lived his life. Thank you very much. I pray for the family. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Let's take not too much, not too long per person, so because I know there are many of us who would want to eulogize our good friend and brother, the Honorable Washington JAKOYO MIDIWO. I will start with the Deputy Speaker.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of my constituency, my family, and myself, I wish to give my heartfelt condolences to the family of Honorable JAKOYO MIDIWO. Mr. Speaker, I came to Parliament in 2002, and JAKOYO had also just been elected as a first-termer. Mr. Speaker, what Honorable Mbadi did not say, or he did not say it properly, is that JAKOYO was a good person with a very good heart, and a big heart. Mr. Speaker, when we came in 2002, because I want to be very brief, we were quite a lonely group of young KANU members of Parliament who had been thrashed. The party had been thrashed in the general election, and we were only 68. And Mr. Speaker, on the side of NAC, it was very difficult to interact with anybody that side, the one who are in government, because remember, NAC had just gotten to power. Many of them were fairly new to real power, and they were very difficult and sometimes fairly arrogant, Mr. Speaker. The only person who across the aisle would be able to, interact with us without a problem was the Honorable JAKOYO MIDIWO. And I remember one time, Mr. Speaker, we went to his constituency and actually put him into a lot of trouble. 14 members from KANU, young members from KANU party, visited his constituency and did a harambe for him, because really there was nobody else we could interact with in government. We had been used to power, and we had no power no more, and therefore very lonely, and we could get, and we went to his constituency, and I remember him being summoned and asked why he was behaving in that manner with the people from the opposition. That story went on and on. He was an active member of the House. Other than being a good debater, he was also a footballer. Maybe not a very good footballer. But if you get anybody from Nyanza or Western, when they come to Parliament here, they would believe just because they are very good the other side. He was not a good footballer, but a very social footballer. We would interact very well when we go on trips with him. And Mr. Speaker, I've just said he was a good man. Lastly, I wanted to say something about him on a personal level. Many of these members of Parliament have never lost elections, so they would not know how cold it is to be outside Parliament when you lose an election. I remember when I lost election in 2007, and I had nothing much to do. JAKOYO MIDIWO picked me from somewhere and gave me an advice on what I could do and make my life useful during that difficult period. And Mr. Speaker, I was not ready with all the papers that were required. And he personally, because he was a whip and had some control here and there, he was able to wait for me to do those things that I did. I will not say what it was then, but Mr. Speaker, part of what sustained me outside this Parliament for 5 years is as a result of Honorable JAKOYO MIDIWO. And that is what I really wanted to stand and say. Really, if there was anything I could do to say thank you, I really want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart, and to the family, we pray for them. For the family, we pray for them, and hope that God will, let's not say be kind. The Honorable former majority leader says be kind. For us, we say our fariji, mioyo yao, familia. Now, then we can put that in English. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Game.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I would like to thank you for giving me this opportunity to send my message of condolence and that of the good people of Game following the sudden and untimely demise of our former Member of Parliament, my friend and brother, Washington JAKOYO MIDIWO. As history would have it, I had a conversation with JAKOYO MIDIWO on Friday at 6 p.m. And that conversation was around telling him sorry for the demise of his sister, elder sister Juliana. And I asked him, where do I send my donation? And he told me, just send the donation to me. Little did I know that that was the last time I would talk to my brother JAKOYO. No wonder the Bible says in Psalms 39 verse 4, Lord, show me my end. Lord, teach me that my life is like a phantom, that my life is just like air. I think the demise of JAKOYO has taught me a few lessons of life. Mr. Speaker, sir, during the 15 years of his membership to this House, JAKOYO exuded a sense of teamwork and a sense of brevity in articulating. He'll be remembered as a man who dedicated himself to serving the people of Game, and a man who had fidelity to the truth. Mr. Speaker, sir, when he was in line of duty, JAKOYO ensured that he was indeed the man in the arena. His face mud with sweat and dust most of the time, in attempts to ensure that we, the people of Game, got what we deserved and what was rightfully ours. In his oversight role, he'll be remembered as a man who was brave when he was tackling on issues. In his representation role, we, the people of Game, will remember him for standing for what was right for the people of Game. Mr. Speaker, sir, the Honorable JAKOYO MIDIWO, while serving as a deputy minority leader in this House, he helped consolidate the members of the opposition and led them as a solid and shaken House that could hold the government to check. Mr. Speaker, the people of Game will forever remember the Honorable Washington JAKOYO MIDIWO for his transformation agenda and for the many projects that he used CDF to launch and to ensure that our students in school had good classes. Mr. Speaker, sir, on my personal encounter with my predecessor, I remember with a lot of nostalgia the many moments that we met with JAKOYO, and we joked about our competition. We thought that the competition was just like a football match between Gor Mahia and AFC. And after the match, sometimes you lose, sometimes you win. And we kept our cool because we thought that we are all fighting for the beautiful constituency of Game, the land that has the best of brains in this country. Mr. Speaker, sir, let me take this opportunity to convey sincere condolences to the family of JAKOYO and the entire people of Game, and the friends and the loved ones of JAKOYO for the loss that we have encountered in his demise. We wish to assure their family, the family of JAKOYO, that we are together with them in this, and that we are praying for God's mercy and grace upon them during this difficult moment. Mr. Speaker, as I conclude, I wish to request the honorable members to keep the family of our fallen brother and the people of Game in prayers as we come to terms with the loss of the member of Game who was a man that we'll never forget for the works, for his deliberations, for his brevity, and for investing in many of his friends. JAKOYO is one of those honorable members who spent time with the ordinary people at home. He invested in his network, and he had a huge network. I'll forever remember Washington JAKOYO MIDIWO for his steadfastness, for being a true person. When he didn't like something, he said it as it were. And I remember for the last 2 years that he was talking in funerals in Game and meeting people, he told them Game can only have one MP. It can only have 2. And for that, I'll remember him for the rest of my life, and I will do anything possible to ensure that we give him a peaceful send-off. The Bible reminds me on Revelation 21, and I saw a new heaven and a new earth. Because the old one passed away, we look forward that when our day comes, we'll meet him in heaven. Thank you.
Honorable Wandai. Is your card is not showing.
Honorable Speaker, okay, thank you very much. If you allow me to just again remove my mask, because I'm referring some notes on my phone. Mr. Speaker, let me join my colleagues. Yeah, I've asked for permission from the Speaker to refer to my notes on my phone. But if you insist, I'll try to persevere. Okay. Honorable Speaker, let me join my colleagues in passing my deep felt condolences to the family of my friend JAKOYO MIDIWO. Mr. Speaker, I came to know JAKOYO MIDIWO when he was serving his first term in this parliament. Mr. Speaker, at that time, I was working for British American Tobacco, and there was a project I was implementing in his constituency, a CSR project, and that's how I came to meet him, the Speaker. And from that first encounter, I learned one or two things, one of which was that a member of parliament should not just sit back and wait for the so-called development to be brought by the government. That a member of parliament must go out of his way to create networks. That was a very valuable lesson I learned from Honorable JAKOYO. So, Speaker, come 2013, when I was running to be member of parliament, JAKOYO stood by me from day one up to the last moment. And I remember very well, at that time, I was still undertaking an assignment in Kampala, Mr. Speaker. And even after I had won nominations in ODM in Ugunja, Mr. Speaker, and I came to Nairobi to look for my certificate of nomination from the party, it was delayed. So I went back to Kampala. And so when the certificate was ready, JAKOYO called me that I have a certificate with me. And I want you to come and pick it from me, lest somebody play mischief. So I had to fly back from Entebbe to Nairobi, and he gave me the certificate of myself and my MCAs. That is JAKOYO. Because he thought that if he didn't do so, he could create room for some mischief. Mr. Speaker, in the 11th Parliament, we as the Code Coalition, most of us, had wanted JAKOYO to be the leader of minority, Mr. Speaker, because we had seen the capacity in him. But of course, because of the dynamics of coalition, it didn't happen, and he became a deputy instead. But even as a deputy, Mr. Speaker, JAKOYO performed exemplarily well. It's for sure that JAKOYO's leadership was exemplary in this House. And it's a lesson for most of us who are new in this Parliament, Mr. Speaker. Fast forward, as I conclude, Mr. Speaker. When JAKOYO lost the election of 2017, when JAKOYO did not make it back to this House in 2017, Mr. Speaker, I must confirm and confess that it is me among very other few people who remain close to him. And in fact, in the period between that time and now that he has left us, he has been to my constituency countless number of times. Countless number of times. I remember speaking to JAKOYO last on Saturday, last week, in the evening. I think 1 or 2 days before he passed on phone. Again, about the demise of his sister, his elder sister. I didn't know that I would be speaking with him for the last time, but he was still very, very confident as a man who was always sure of himself. Finally, Mr. Speaker, we all know that JAKOYO ran in 2017 election as an independent candidate in game. And when the elections were concluded, as I've said, I took it upon myself to initiate the process of bringing back JAKOYO to ODM in my other capacity in the party. And I must say I was successful in organizing his comeback and even a ceremony for him to be received back by bar at Chungwa House. Of course, an initiative that didn't please very many people, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, to cut the story short, I want us to give our departed brother the most befitting send-off and to take home the lessons we have learned from his life as a politician and as a father and as a brother and as a son, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there are very, very many people who have passed through this parliament and who will pass through this parliament, but will never leave the mark of the magnitude that JAKOYO has left. There are people who have been in this parliament even more times, more terms, but they have not left the kind of legacy that JAKOYO has left. So may God Almighty rest his soul in eternal peace. Thank you.
Honorable Ochieng. There is a problem, I think, around that area. There is a problem around that area.
Oh, I got it here. Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, with a very heavy heart, Mr. Speaker, I can't believe that I'm standing here this afternoon, evening, to talk about the Honorable JAKOYO MIDIWO Aka Otada. Mr. Speaker, in the last campaign, we used to call him Otada ×4. Mr. Speaker, it is so saddening that
is now being called the late JAKOYO MIDIWO. I believe that one day, even death will die. The Speaker, JAKOYO was so friendly, so honest, so forthright, Mr. Speaker. As Mr. Speaker, in 2012, when I was running to be MP for Uganda, and he met me at the airport, and I was fighting that time with my current senator about whether I should be MP or not, because the senator and I come from the same ward. He told the senator, this young man has been fighting for so long to be MP. He's done so many things. Why are you fighting him? Mr. Speaker, he even left a glass of alcohol on the table at the intercom when it became apparent that I had won the nomination and I wasn't being given the ticket for the ODM. The Speaker, he's the one who advised me to go to court after the ticket was given to somebody else. I finally got the ticket, Mr. Speaker. JAKOYO was so generous, not just with what he had, Mr. Speaker, but with words and advice. Mr. Speaker, he was such a good mentor. He would tell you that I know you are hard-headed, but this is the right thing to do. Mr. Speaker, if I may joke about it, so he told me that, David, you're a young man joining politics, and you know that as a young man, you're going to have so many girls around you, you know? So I never allow any woman to enter your car. So Speaker, I've never allowed any lady to enter my car in my constituency. Apart my wife is not any other woman. Because he could advise you on how to navigate your way through service and through serving, even in this house. My joining of the circle was because of JAKOYO. He told you that, you know, you're going to spend money around here, but when the day comes for the elections, you won't have much. So make sure that you go to the circle. Mr. Speaker, JAKOYO cared. So 3 weeks ago, Mr. Speaker, less than 3 weeks ago, on 30th of last month, Mr. Speaker, when the president came to Siaya County, Speaker, I shed a tear. When a member of parliament who had served for 3 terms, not just ordinary member, but up to a whip, Mr. Speaker, was being blocked from entering where the president was. He was being told you can't enter because you're a former member of parliament. 3 weeks ago, Mr. Speaker, on 30th, on Sunday, in his constituency, not anywhere else, to launch projects that I'm so sure he was part of lobbying for. But the police and some guards, Mr. Speaker, it was so disheartening. And Mr. Speaker, as we discuss, for example, how to ensure that the former Prime Minister, the former Speaker, the former Minister have worked, Mr. Speaker, if a member serves here for 3 terms consecutive, Mr. Speaker, there must be a way to deal with it. We must ensure that, Mr. Speaker, as a House, we pass some laws that ensure that, because you cannot then leave Parliament after 3 years, and they can just play with you willy-nilly. I was so disheartened, Mr. Speaker. A person of JAKOYO's stature, Mr. Speaker, a person who personified debate. Mr. Speaker, when he rose to speak, and I was in this house last time, everybody here would keep quiet because they knew that he would speak sense. Mr. Speaker, he knew how to navigate his way across the aisle. And he taught some of us how to navigate living in Parliament. Speaker, like the Honorable Deputy Speaker said, Mr. Speaker, JAKOYO will tell you that the reason you're going to sports is not that you're going to be a good player or you're going to be a good footballer. You didn't come here to do football, but you must ensure that you go to sports, that you socialize. You know people. You can understand how members react to different situations, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, JAKOYO was such a loyal human being to his friends. To the fact and to the effect that, Mr. Speaker, and I so spoke about it, in the last elections when he lost, I'm certain, and I'm saying to Honorable Elisha here, that were it not that JAKOYO did not support Honorable Gumbo for governorship of Siaya, JAKOYO would be in this parliament as MP. But he said that if ODM is not giving Gumbo his ticket, he will not take the ODM ticket. He was so loyal to his friends. Mr. Speaker, as we mourn JAKOYO, I would like this parliament to just have one thing in mind, that even as rest his peace his soul in eternal peace, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Could we try to be a bit brief, so that, because I know there are so many of us who have a moment or so with the Honorable JAKOYO, and so that we can, because you know, you also know the business that is before us, but I think it's only fair and befitting that we allow as many of us to say something. Honorable Kimunya.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, on behalf of my family and the people of Kibeperi, I would like to convey my condolences to the family of the late JAKOYO MIDIWO and the people of GEM who he represented for the 10 years that I served with him together, the 10 we served together, and then he continued to serve when I was out. I joined this parliament with him in 2002, December, and we got to know one another. Then in 2007, after following the elections, we now got into the Grand Coalition together and worked together. And I got to work with him far much more. And as we got to even the tail end of that term, with him as a whip and with me as the deputy leader of government business, then we got conjoined into working together, especially as we brought in the legislation to actualize the new constitution. And he became a very useful ally to me because of our friendship. There was a team we had of Milio Thiambo, Mugatana. There was a team that used to sit around the corner, like 5 of them, who really used to poke holes into every bill that we brought. But using JAKOYO, I was able to get their thinking behind what issues, so to eliminate mischief and at least identify that the changes being brought to the law are for the better part of the law. And this was a time when, we had, I was on the PNU side. He was on the ODM side. But it was actually easier for me to work with him than our own whip. Because he was always in the house anyway. And on our side, we were very weak in terms of representation. So it's somebody I got to trust and to work with and to get things moving in his house. And we became friends. And then after that, we've also appeared together on shows and of the radio, on TV. And I know his thinking, his commitment and all that was more of parliament. The kind of thing we're talking about, where we need people to be educated, to dedicate their time to parliament, rather than just thinking of, coming in, sign up, and dash out. But he actually dedicated his time here, and people got to know him. So we will miss a good leader. It's unfortunate he passed on at 54. Is quite a tender age. But we leave that to God, and we can only say we'll miss him. It's at the prime of his life. We will miss what he would have done for the people of GEM, what he would have done for the people of Kenya with his experience. And at this point, we can only pray for his family to have the comfort to go through this situation that has befallen them rather suddenly. And I would ask that members, in our traditional way, I don't know whether it's Honorable Elisha who will be mobilizing that, in our compassionate way, we can see how to join the family in giving him a befitting send-off. As I'm thinking of, as the MP, obviously working with the leader of the minority party, you guide us into how members can participate in helping the family to overcome the financial burden associated with, as we pray for them to overcome the grief, that one does not complicate the other. And also as part of our contribution to sending our colleague off. So with those words, I really want to say once again, it's a loss to all of us, and especially for the family, people of Gem, the Kenyan nation, people who used to listen to him every Monday. I think he was appearing on a TV show every Monday, and almost every day, and as part of participating in bringing up issues to the Kenyan people. So we'll miss him, and may the Lord keep his soul in eternal peace and with eternal light shining on him. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Eseli. Honorable members, I'm aware that the members from Siaya have all indicated that that some are saying they're either aunties or uncles, grandfathers, and the children or grandchildren to the. But please allow the voices of Kenya, because the Honorable JAKOYO MIDIWO. And for those of you who may not know, I personally would wish to appreciate the role that the Honorable MIDIWO played in revision of our standing orders. The current standing orders have a lot of imprint from the Honorable JAKOYO MIDIWO. And therefore, I think that's just, of course, I do appreciate those concerns, but let us also allow other members from other parts of the country to eulogize our late brother. Honorable Eseli.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On my own behalf and on behalf of the people of Tongaren constituency, I wish to extend my deep felt condolences to the family of the late Washington JAKOYO MIDIWO. I first met JAKOYO MIDIWO when I came to Parliament in 2007. That time, JAKOYO MIDIWO was the chief whip for ODM. And Mr. Speaker, I must say from the outset that actually JAKOYO struck terror to the PNU side because of his organizational skills. And that time I was able to observe it sort of detached, because on the PNU side, I was the only Fort Kenya MP. So I was able to masquerade on both sides. And I observed that JAKOYO's organizational skills made the ODM team so formidable that to counter them effectively, the PNU side had to go an extra mile. And he was so persistent and so insistent about what he believed in. And this made it very difficult for the other side to be able to counter what he was doing. Mr. Speaker, that said, he was also a very friendly person. In that, in the evening, in the members' lounge, you could always have a drink with him and have a chat with him, and he had a lot of advice for those of us who had just come into Parliament as to how to make your mark in Parliament, how to actually research about bills and things like those. And in fact, at one point, he held my hand as I brought the bill that eventually came up to be the Human Resource Management Act that's being used now. He actually put me through the paces before that act was enacted. He was a good debater. And in fact, this being a good debater extended even after he didn't make it back to Parliament. That we met on the TV show that you are saying AM Live on NTV, and he was always very jovial. But one thing he never did, he never said yes when he meant no. He said it as it is. Whether you felt offended or not, but eventually you'll find that what he has told you is what he saw. So he did not mince words. If you have displeased him, he'll tell you so, but in a friendly way, that in the end, you'll still remain friendly with him. He was also jovial in a way. There's one joke he kept on telling us about the time he was accused of having frequented Koinange Street. And he went for the campaign in his constituency, and he knew that his days were over, because that was the main accusation flying around. Then somebody just stood up and said, JAKOYO is the man, because he's not running after men, he's running after women, so he's not a gay. And that changed the mood, and JAKOYO made it back to Parliament. He kept on telling that joke. He had his own way of saying that joke, and he would make all of us laugh in the members' lounge. After he left Parliament, I've interacted with him several times, and he has remained hopeful and always encouraging to those of us who are his friends. May his soul rest in eternal peace.
Honorable Pukose.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, on behalf of the great people of Endebess and my family, I want to send my message of condolence to the family and the people of Game following the death of Honorable Washington JAKOYO MIDIWO. Honorable Speaker, Honorable JAKOYO used to sit on the other side there in the last parliament, and I was also a member with him in the Committee of Health and Catering. Honorable Speaker, Honorable JAKOYO MIDIWO contributed to the changing of health and catering to the facility and services. He's actually the one who contributed a lot when we met and we were able to discuss and agree that this is supposed to be for facilities and services for members. Even went further, this committee is supposed to have even oversighted the Parliamentary Service Commission, actually, because there is no committee that oversights Parliamentary Service Commission. It is supposed to be the Facility and Services Committee that should oversight Parliamentary Service Commission. Even their budget, they should be able to present that. That is actually the JAKOYO that I know. Honorable Speaker, when the President visited Siaya, and Honorable JAKOYO, I read in the papers that he was denied entry into the Bondo Water Services, which the President was opening. I think that was a very sad moment. And I think those who did that, I think they should be ashamed of themselves. Because honorable members, whether you've been, so long as you've been here in Parliament, you've served your time, but you must be respected. Honorable Speaker, just another point which I think should be looked by the Parliamentary Service Commission on the same breath is the members who have retired from this House or members who are on pension. Their health cover should also be looked into, because you find that there are members who have not used even their health cover for all the period which they have been here in Parliament. But once they are on pension, you find that somebody becomes sick, they are out, and is not able to access any medical cover. I think it's a high time that we need to look at the pension for the members, and so that pension includes health care cover for them, so that when they retire from the House or they are on pension, they are able to access good medical care outside there. Not just even members alone, but even retired Kenyans. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I want to say, may his soul rest in eternal peace.
Well, member for Alego Songa.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I take this opportunity on behalf of my family and the people of Alego Songa to pass our sincere condolences to the family of the Honorable Washington JAKOYO MIDIWO. Honorable Speaker, I met JAKOYO when I was still in the banking industry where I used to work. When I developed interest to join politics, I looked for him and I held a meeting with him. And I wanted him to guide me in how to maneuver the field of politics. And he asked me a few questions, and I answered those questions. He told me, I think you can be a good politician. So during the period of running to 2022, running to 2017, when we were out looking for votes, I was aligned to him in the political matrix of the Siaya County. But unfortunately, in our camp, I was the only one who was lucky to win the ODM ticket. Our gubernatorial candidate and the whole team lost. So he moved to independent, to be an independent candidate, and I campaigned as an ODM candidate. And we only met after I was sworn in, after the elections, and I was sworn in. And we met at the airport. And he was happy to see me, and we had a very good conversation. But he told me that since I was elected, he had observed a few things which I did which were not going to help me. And he told me that, one, you work a lot with youth, with bodybuilders. So I want to ask you to drop that. And you also told me that there are many mistakes that politicians make, which is that when they are elected, they don't pick calls. I want to ask you to pick all the calls that come your way. Never switch off your phones. And I think this is something that Honorable Mbadi alluded to. Honorable Speaker, I think that those two lessons that I was given by JAKOYO has really helped me in my political journey, because I do not switch off my phones, and I dropped, the idea of walking around with a lot of youths like I am walking in my enemy territory. But Honorable Speaker, there's one thing that I want to thank JAKOYO for, and this is something that I have also learned. JAKOYO is somebody who would never hold any grudge with anyone. I remember in the recent past, in our county politics, we have not been reading from the same script. But in many occasions when we have met with JAKOYO, he will never talk to you about your political differences. He would talk to you about the current issues, and he will never hold any grudge, and he would treat you like you are his friend. I think that I said yesterday, Honorable Speaker, when we received the news of his demise, that for us as a county, we have lost a progressive leader, a formidable leader. The politics in Siaya is going to change, because for a long time and up to the most recent, even when JAKOYO was not in this parliament, the politics in Siaya always revolved around JAKOYO. You are either with or against JAKOYO. And I think for us as young leaders, I want to say that there's a lot that we have learned from JAKOYO around his political life, around the way he handled his issues, around his boldness, around the fact that JAKOYO is somebody who will always, take a position, irrespective of whether that position is against the party or against the establishment. It is something that I think we are going to learn for a long time in our region. We really do not have such politicians like JAKOYO. And therefore, even as we mourn, I want to call upon our people to learn something about JAKOYO. And as the MP who represents his uncles, because his mother comes from my constituency, the family has had a lot. Recently, we lost his uncle. We have lost his sister, who is also married in my constituency. And now we have lost the late Honorable JAKOYO MIDIWO. We know that these deaths have come in many deaths in a span of just 2 weeks. We know that it is very painful. And I want to thank Honorable Kimunya for urging members to stand with the family of the late. May the Almighty God rest the soul of the Honorable JAKOYO MIDIWO in eternal peace.
As I give another member, I just want to remind the House that, and Kenyans in general, those who enjoy consumer protection laws, that the Honorable JAKOYO MIDIWO was the architect of that law. And in fact, the provisions in our standing orders requiring that when a member is being discharged, that he should be given an opportunity. You write to the member, you must warn the member that you're about to discharge them. Give him an opportunity, or her an opportunity, to present his or her case. So I know it's important that we say some of these things as we move on, as we mourn our late brother, Honorable Duale. I know you worked a lot with the Honorable MIDIWO.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Speaker, it is not even me. I think you have worked with Honorable JAKOYO more than anybody else, because he was with you in the 9th Parliament when you were the whip of the opposition, KANU, and he was in government NAC. Mr. Speaker, I came to learn Honorable MIDIWO in 2004-05 when we were together in LDP. But I really worked with him in the 11th Parliament when CORD and that time TNA, URP, there was a lot of commotion. And I'm sure you have seen the video, going round. And it's very interesting. Honorable JAKOYO MIDIWO, Mr. Speaker, was a very fearless leader, very courageous, and that shows he was the only man who could stand up to, the ODM party and its leadership. And I remember in the 10th Parliament, after we formed, we joined together ODM and we became members of Parliament in 2007, somewhere along the way, I was an assistant minister, so I was in the government side. Then around 2009, I was sacked as an assistant minister because of politics. So when I became a backbencher, I had no committee. Mr. Speaker, I had no committee. And Mr. Speaker, that's why you are different from other speakers. And members must know. So I stayed in this house for about 3 months as a backbencher, sacked from government, and with no committee. So I went to Speaker Marende. He didn't listen to me. And in fact, that led to one of the reasons why I didn't vote for him in the 11th Parliament. He was not very kind. I told him, you know, I'm a member of Parliament for duties. So I met Honorable JAKOYO, a good man. He was a whip and working together with Johnson Mudama, who was from the PNU. So I sat with him in the bar, and I told him, my friend, you know what, JAKOYO, even if I have been sacked and I'm not in good books with ODM, you know, I'm entitled to become, to have a committee. And JAKOYO went out of his way and made sure that I joined the Committee of Energy at that time. But Mr. Speaker, finally, I really want to indulge you now under your leadership, is that the Parliamentary Service Commission must recognize outstanding leaders, not only JAKOYO, but since independence, by doing what happens in the House of Commons, in the Australian Parliament, by naming certain facilities and rooms after those leaders. You know, instead of having room 7, room 9, we can have JAKOYO MIDIWO room. We can have Speaker Marende's, room, so that these leaders are remembered. Shikuku, the Honorable Shikuku, the Honorable Ahmed Khalif, those great leaders. And this, you find it in other jurisdictions, so that even the floors in our new building, there should be, and cafeteria should be named after somebody. The library should be named after somebody. Jean-Marie Soronei Library, for example, as a speaker. So that these leaders are recognized. So JAKOYO, I think to start with, we can, and through the Parliamentary Service Commission, you can do that. The Speaker, Honorable Elisha is a beneficiary of the fearless and courageous nature of Honorable JAKOYO in the last election. Because JAKOYO was in a team, and I'm not sure whether Honorable Atandi was there, because Honorable Atandi, with a lot of respect, doesn't fit in the JAKOYO's team. He said he was with him, and the problem is now we can't verify. But Ochieng, these are the people who are with JAKOYO. And at one time during the election, just to conclude, I sat with JAKOYO because we were very good friends, particularly the 11th Parliament. JAKOYO will say no, and we agree with him by the time we're entering the chamber. And I'll agree with him, I'll tell him, you're the opposition leader, you're the minority leader with Honorable Nyanze, take your position, I'll take my position, we'll see the numbers. At times we agree, this is of national interest, let us do a bipartisan. So by the time I'm coming to the chamber, I knew the position of JAKOYO, and he knows my position. So to the last general election, I sat with him and I told him, my friend, I have been with you in ODM since 2007. In fact, in LDP, you can't fight Baba. And I can see you are pushing and you really want Honorable Gumbo, another man I have a lot of respect for, one of the very few independent-minded leaders from the lake. People like Honorable Shakil Shabir, and people like JAKOYO. I told him, please, don't put a lot of push and investment in this candidature of Honorable Gumbo. It might cost you your seat. And that's what happened, and that is what brought Honorable Elisha to this house. Apart from the many votes you got. So, Mr. Speaker, I think we will ask Honorable Elisha and Honorable John Bundy, maybe tomorrow, that they start collecting. I think, Honorable, we need to stand with the family of our colleague. He was one of the few leaders under the new constitution in our own parliamentary jurisdiction. Under the new constitution, he is a deputy minority leader, the first of its kind in this house. So I think we will sit as leaders, as friends, and make sure that the family he left behind and colleagues also will not be left. Mr. Speaker, we say it in our religion, in chapter 3, verse 185 of the Holy Quran, every soul will test death. So death is imminent, death will come. The only question is when, and I hope that when he meets his creator, all that he will be charged is what he has done for the Almighty God when he was in this worldly affair. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Now, honour members, I am now between a rock and a hard place. Those of you who understand the parliamentary procedures, today is the third and final allotted day. And this session goes on up to 6:30. Unless we do a supplementary order paper to push the third and the fourth allotted day to the period between 7 and 9:30, which I don't know whether it is, unless there's another motion, may not be possible, because even that was slotted to be the first allotted day for supply. So, honour members, I know, and I can see there's a lot of interest to eulogize our brother. Now, this is a problem. I know the Honourable Wamalwa worked with the Honourable JAKOYO MIDIWO very, very closely in the last parliament. If you could take just
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I stand here with a very heavy heart. And on behalf of my family, the people of Kiminini constituency and Trans Nzoia County at large, we send our message of condolence to the family of the late Washington JAKOYO MIDIWO. Mr. Speaker, the Bible, in the book of Ecclesiastes, the Bible says there's time for everything. There's time to be born and there's time to die, Mr. Speaker. JAKOYO MIDIWO has gone very early. Mr. Speaker, I worked with this JAKOYO MIDIWO. I used to sit here, we used to sit next to each other. He was our team leader, Mr. Speaker. He was a fearless, astute legislator, Mr. Speaker, very charismatic, and he was a team player. Mr. Speaker, just like what William Shakespeare said, Mr. Speaker, that all of us were on this earth just like performers in a play. It is like a stage where we are acting, but will eventually exit. But as you exit, what legacy do you leave behind? JAKOYO MIDIWO leaves behind a strong legacy of team working, Mr. Speaker. He leaves behind a strong legacy of charisma, Mr. Speaker. He used to lead us here. He was the deputy minority leader, Mr. Speaker. But every time, people confused that he was the minority leader, because Nyenze was the minority leader and he was the deputy. And when I joined Parliament, Mr. Speaker, he told me that if you want to be a good legislator, Mr. Speaker, you must learn by attending parliamentary sittings. That's what he told me, Mr. Speaker. And that is the same message I've been giving my other colleagues who are joining for the first time, like Honorable Amilemba and the MP for Mheshimiwa Kavinga, that if you want to learn to be a good legislator, you must learn by attending Parliament. And he told me, Mr. Speaker, you should not miss two books. This is the Standing Order and the Constitution. That was JAKOYO MIDIWO, Mr. Speaker. I served with him in the House Business, in the Committee of Appointments, and I was also with him in the Committee of Defense and Foreign Relations. He used to lead us very well, Mr. Speaker. At that time, Mr. Speaker, the temperatures were very high. And before any matter came on the floor of the House, Mr. Speaker, there was that consultation between Honorable MIDIWO and Duale. I also want to thank Duale, Mr. Speaker. He has been a good leader. He's one person who has very good interpersonal skills. Give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar. He was kicked out. I was also kicked out, Mr. Speaker, from leadership. And MIDIWO called me. And he told me, my brother, you're still young. You still have a better future. Let life continue. I was kicked out, and now you can see I'm strong, Mr. Speaker. I was encouraged by MIDIWO. And he also told me what had been done in the backyard. And about last week, we were discussing with Honorable my friend here, Honorable Elisha. And I want to thank Elisha because, Mr. Speaker, he's not among the people who blocked MIDIWO from accessing the president. We were discussing last week. And I told him, you've done well on the constituency, but you've not done well in legislation like JAKOYO MIDIWO. And I told him you should increase your contact hours on the floor of the House. And you can see he's seated here, Mr. Speaker. And for you, if you want to learn parliamentary matters, you must learn by attending. If you come, you sign in, you sign out, you'll not learn, Mr. Speaker. And this I learned from JAKOYO MIDIWO. So we are praying to Almighty God to give his family fortitude at this difficult time. And he was also a prayerful person because we used to be with him in the National Prayer Breakfast. We've lost a great friend, Mr. Speaker. May his soul rest in peace.
Now, honourable members, because there are so many of you who have made the requests, and I have to balance now this, the need between you having to eulogize our late brother and the need for us to go to the third and final allotted day for the business appearing in order number 11. So I have to balance, and therefore we strike a balance on our members. 1 minute, and it will be timed here. When you see the yellow light, you know you have 30 seconds. Yeah? Honorable Wangwe.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I'll take 1 minute. Honorable Speaker, on behalf of the people of Navaholo and that of my own behalf, allow me, Honorable Speaker, to pass my sincere condolences to the family of the late JAKOYO MIDIWO, Washington. Honorable Speaker, Honorable JAKOYO made a statement here which I would want to remember during the security bill. He did caution us. I was a first-term MP, and he did caution us and said, make laws that are for posterity. Make laws that will favor you when you are out of government and when you are in government. Honorable Speaker, that statement leaves me always. When I'm a majority whip, Honorable Speaker, I'm able to extend my service to those on the minority side without, Honorable Speaker, considering that they are the minority side and this is the majority side. We serve one government and we serve one parliament. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. May God rest his soul in eternity.
Member for Migori County.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. I also rise on behalf of myself and Sona West and the entire Migori County to say pole to the family of JAKOYO MIDIWO. I was not a member of parliament then, but a board chair of some very small school which had only one classroom. And my husband was another board chair in another school. These two schools in my local community, Machicha and Kitabae, were in need. And so Honorable Ndiege introduced me to JAKOYO MIDIWO, and I was amazed at his humility, generosity. He came and supported me, and we raised the first 3.6 million in Arambe that was ever held in that region. May God rest his soul in peace. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Igembe Central.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, on my own behalf, my family, and that of the people of great people of Igembe Central, I pass my condolences to the family of JAKOYO MIDIWO, who happened to be my colleague in the last parliament. He was an astute debater. He was he had a lot of interpersonal capacities, and he was one of the few members of parliament who would really challenge Duala in this parliament. And he was very sincere in his debate. And also, when he meant to oppose something, he opposed it with a lot of reason and with a lot of caution. And if he had to appreciate anything, he did it so in the same marshal. May his soul rest in eternal peace. Thank you.
Member for Yatta. Member for Yatta. Honorable Kilonzo. It's not there. He left his member for Emuhaya.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I take this opportunity to also pass my condolences as myself, Mboko Milemba, and the people of Emuhaya. We are his neighbors, and I call him uncle because my mother came from where his home is. We had a chance of visiting him, and I agree with Honorable Honorable Amalwa, he told me to sit in parliament. He told me not to be walking out and bouncing. He told me that's the most important thing when you're in parliament. And we had wanted to change him from ODM to NC that time. I went with my party leader. We were unable, but that is it. May the Lord rest his soul in peace.
Member for Muranga County.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I join my colleagues in eulogizing my friend, Honorable JAKOYO MIDIWO. He was a friend and also a person whom I met in this house, was very clean-hearted, a good debater. And today, Honorable Duale has confirmed my worries then, that because I used to see that they used to collude, both of them, though they were on different sides. He was a very great leader, and Honorable Speaker, it's sad that when the issue of somebody was conning me came up, Honorable JAKOYO is the one who helped me to arrest the guy, and today I was in court this afternoon. 3 years down the line, the hearing was today, and unfortunately, he will not give evidence because the hearing started today. But I'll say I've lost a friend, a great leader, and may he rest in peace.
Member for Siaya County.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I take this opportunity to convey my condolences to the family of JAKOYO MIDIWO. JAKOYO MIDIWO is somebody I've known since childhood. We grew up together, even though I'm much older. And JAKOYO MIDIWO has performed marvelously as a politician. The Game people, the people of Siaya, have a lot of respect for JAKOYO MIDIWO, for the debate he held in here, and the way he was very eloquent, very forceful, and very determined. He has remained a history in the people of Game. They rate JAKOYO as one of the best politicians that Game people have produced, alongside my late brother-in-law, Oki Ooko Ombaka, Mama Grace Ogot, and Arguings Kodek. That is why they have rated JAKOYO MIDIWO. I take this opportunity to tell you that.
Member for North Hall.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to really eulogize the passing of a great friend and a colleague, Honorable JAKOYO MIDIWO. We met many years ago in the States. Later, we met in this house. Mr. Speaker, sir, he was a great man, a great leader, a very fine gentleman. And Mr. Speaker, sir, when we were in ODM, he was always a voice of reason, and was able to go beyond regions, beyond entities, to see us as Kenyans, and was a great leader. I pray God to rest his soul in eternal peace, and also to give his family fortitude to overcome these challenging times. May his soul rest in peace.
Honorable Professor Adur.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. As I eulogize JAKOYO, I want to say not just charisma, but HOTSEAT. Honorable Speaker, I want to say that JAKOYO Otada ×4, solid, bold, courageous. Honorable Speaker, Kenya right now needs not just politicians, but leaders. And JAKOYO MIDIWO is a clear example as we listen not only to what is being said here, Honorable Speaker, but even to what right from the referendum through to the Constitution, even to BBI. JAKOYO MIDIWO speaks the truth, speaks for Kenya, speaks boldly. May his soul rest in peace.
Honorable Gikaria.
Nashukuru sana Mheshimiwa Spika. Niongee tu kwa niaba yangu, familia na watu ya Nakuru Town East Constituency kuleta rambirambi kwa familia na jamaa za ndugu yangu JAKOYO MIDIWO ambaye tulijuana katika bunge ya 11. Na niseme JAKOYO kwa yale mambo ambayo alifanya wakati ule, alitufunza mengi sana wakati alipokuwa akifanya debate. Na sana sana Speaker, JAKOYO alikuwa ni mtu ambaye alikuwa informed sana. Tulikuwa tunamheshimu Bwana Duale, lakini ile information Duale alikuwa naye, JAKOYO had always an answer for that. And I respected JAKOYO for ile mambo ambayo alikuwa akitoa wakati ule ya kuweza kutupatia kama wageni katika bunge hili, kuweza kuweka miswada hasa, na alikuwa akiniambia vile alishirikia katika ile kupitisha Constitution ya 2010.
Honorable Shakil Shabir.
Thank you. I want to eulogize my dear brother, JAKOYO MIDIWO. He was a very, very strong person and a great support. But as the chairman of APNAC, he was one of our strongest fighters for corruption. I remember, Mr. Chair, that JAKOYO MIDIWO, Isaac Maura, and myself stopped the Prime Minister of Malaysia in 2015 from opening the anti-corruption workshop. Up to date, Mr. Chair, Mr. Speaker, sir, the Malaysians still remember that particular event. JAKOYO was fearless, and he was very much a fighter against corruption. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you for giving me a chance also to give my condolences to the family of Honorable JAKOYO MIDIWO. I knew JAKOYO MIDIWO, Honorable Speaker, in the 11th Parliament, and he was a forthright member of Parliament, Mr. Speaker. He was very versatile when he was on the floor of the House, Mr. Speaker. JAKOYO was friendly to everybody, to all members of Parliament, Mr. Speaker, during his time as a member of Parliament. He was a team player, Mr. Speaker, and he would share his thoughts with others, like us during that time when we were still young in this House, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, this House has lost, or this nation has lost a great politician, a leader whom we will remember forever. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Tongi Nyagaka.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I want to take this opportunity on my own behalf and on behalf of the people of Nyaribari Church, where I represent Honorable Speaker, to share my condolences with the rest of Kenyans of losing such a great leader. Honorable JAKOYO MIDIWO, a couple of months ago, he trained us in Mombasa, Malindi, where he told me that he had just cleared his master's in diplomacy. And he gave us a very good training in matters of diplomacy, Honorable Speaker. Little did I know that he was going to pass on in such a short period of time. We will remember him as one of the peacemakers, a man who stood for the good of the country, just like you, Mr. Speaker. He meant well for the country, and he never cared where you come from. May his soul rest in peace.
Thank you very much, honourable members. Finished the interventions. And we say, may his soul rest in eternal peace. Honourable members, I'm only looking at what is on. Now you can't. Now you are putting now. Surely. No, but now you are beginning to press the intervention button at this hour. Surely, honourable members. No, they were not showing. There was nothing. No, honourable members. I'm sure many of you who might not have gotten the opportunity, please. I'm sure we can also find time to go and condole with the family. You are very many. Honourable members, I'm telling you, we have less than 1 hour, 15 minutes to do the last final allotted day. You know, some of you may not have, even now, and that's why we really, I think I really also needed to eulogize my brother, my friend, the late MIDIWO. Some of you have not been able to even internalize business. That's why that's why sometimes you really wish that the late Honorable MIDIWO would be in the chamber to also explain some of you who have momentary lapses of memory. Because it's not, I think you just forget. I told you, well, the reason why I said 1 minute is so as to balance. And since you are not placed your interventions at that time, please let's just be content with that, so that we can go to the next order. I know many of you may really have wanted, and not even 1 minute has not been sufficient. I'm sure many of you may have much more to say about the Honorable MIDIWO, but there's just so much that we can do. Let's be content with what has been said, and because we are still around, let's find time. The Honorable Elisha has just informed me that he was going to go to his home to find out what arrangements, and perhaps tomorrow he can give us some information so that maybe many of us can also go there and condole with the family. let's just be content with what has been said. Move to the next order.
Order number 8, the Trustees Perpetual Succession Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 23.